Today's episode is sponsored by Zegama Beach Records, who've just today released the debut from 1,000 Angels and 7, which you can pick up on cassette or 7-inch EP. This band's gonna turn a lot of torsos, and heads too. 4 absolutely blistering tracks of technical, dark, and shrieky hardcore metal screamo, pressed on 63 cassettes over 3 variants, plus 7-inch vinyl coming spring-summer 2025. And coming February 7th on Tomb Tree is Brain in a Vat, featuring ex-members of Low Men in Yellow Coats, delivering an angular screamo that borders on noise rock. Check both of those out at ZegamaBeachRecords.com. Hello, and welcome to Everything Remade, a podcast that I hope is about growth as much as it is about music. I'm Edie Quinn, and we have a great show lined up for you today. Before we get started, though, I'd like to remind you about our Patreon page at patreon.com/humanmachine. You can go there to sign up, to read zines, get music sneak peeks, and so much more. That's patreon.com/humanmachine. And now, I'd like to play something for you. You're hearing Restrain by Mao, featuring my new pal Ben on guitar and vocals. The song comes from their debut EP, Antithesis, which you can find on Bandcamp now.
Growing up, I was like not really much of like going out. I was like, kind of chronically on the internet, playing video games, watching anime. And, I was listening to like pop punk a little bit, like just Blink-182, like All American Rejects, Green Day, video game music. And I think like, I started going to high school, and there was like, I guess during that time, there's like scene kids, and one of them was in my class, and they like showed me the band A Skylit Drive, and I'm not sure if you know about that band, but it's just like this post-hardcore band, and they're like like kind of like Hot Topic, screamo-y, and it was like honestly like one of the first songs I've ever heard that had like just the technique of screaming like in their songs, and it was just really heavy, like kind of they had like a metalcore breakdown, and I was just like, whoa, this is awesome. And I was like, okay, I'm growing out my hair. I'm gonna go buy some band tees. And I feel like, that was like a contention point. I was like, okay, I'm gonna do a deep dive on this genre. And I started listening to like Seosin, Circa Survive, Dance Gavin Dance, and like all these like kind of like these Warped Tour style bands. And I don't know, I was just so infatuated with like, the songwriting, the energy, like the emotion. And it really like shaped like kind of like my music taste like significantly, because I just remember doing like full 180s, just going deep dives into music. And I think that's like the most I've ever been like into music, I guess. I mean, I would listen to music very regularly, but I guess like doing a deep dive onto a specific genre, that was probably like my first exposure to it. And it wasn't until like later there was this band called Lear.
Oh yeah.
I think like maybe around 10 years ago now, like 2014 or 2013, I'm not too sure actually, but I remember I think I made some friends, and I wasn't really involved too much in the local DIY community in my city. I just, was just kind of like listening to music through the internet, and just, on some subreddits or Facebook groups, but never really branched out like locally. And it wasn't until then, I think like some friends and mutual friends or friends of friends mentioned, oh, this band called Lear is playing at this coffee shop in San Jose. So I was like, okay, that sounds really fun. I'm going to check it out. And I was just enamored by like their performance, just like the talent of the guitarist, the songwriting, just like how there's like different movements in the song, and energy was going up and down, and there's these very emotional parts. And I think I recall the moment perfectly. Actually, is like they have a song called Perpetuity, and there's just this one kind of breakdown, I guess, towards the end. I guess I might call it a breakdown, but I just remember like feeling that breakdown and just feeling the emotion like in my chest, and like I think possibly like my eyes watered a little bit because I was getting a little emotional.
Yeah.
and and it's just like this big, loud, epic sound. And like I think that we had like there's people in the crowd who listened to the band for a while, so they were like screaming the lyrics along, and I was like, oh my god, this is like so much. It just seems like we're all just entwined in this moment right now, and it's and everyone's just feeling like maybe similarly like the same emotion or the same feeling. And that's like my first like sense of like, oh, there's like a community here in DIY. And like it's everyone's bonded through music, and just supporting each other along with just the really great music that's like coming out, that other bands are performing. And I just remember being like, this is so sick, I want to do this someday.
Yeah.
It wasn't like right away. I think I just thought that, oh, this is kind of like out of my reach. Like I don't know, like I've never played like screamo before, like even on guitar I've never screamed before. I But it sounds so cool. And I feel like the energy that these bands, not just Lear, but just like bands and screamo in general, it seems like there's such a deep message, possibly. I'm not too sure just how I interpret it, but just like it's like true. Like I feel like it's like a true expression of something. Like either it's like an emotion or a story, and it's just like the raw energy of it, and it's something that I was always enamored by. And I was like, wow, this is awesome.
Yeah.
It wasn't until maybe even 5 years later I started playing like playing in punk bands, because before I was only doing like weird pop projects or like indie pop stuff, and just playing with some friends like college buddies, but like not really scratching an itch that I needed with like emotional music or very like high energy music.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I think those two moments like in high school, and then watching like a first screamo show live was like the really like turning points in my life for this.
Yeah. And had you been to any, like, you're talking about, like, we used to call them like Target screamo, because it's like the screamo you could
Target
hear at a
screamo.
Target, um, and but had you been to any of those kinds of shows like before you saw Lear, or was Lear like more or less like the first kind of show that you saw like that?
I think I think Lear was probably one of the first, because I wasn't really going to like, yeah, for like this, like during high school I didn't really like go out too much.
Hmm.
I was just kind of like a homebody or hanging out at friends' houses. I wasn't really one to go out to like shows even. I never went to Warped Tour. I never even went to like any local DIY shows of even that genre, like metalcore or post hardcore or of that sort.
Yeah.
So it was
Yeah.
just kind of like something I would watch like YouTube live videos and just be like, oh, this is sick.
Oh,
But like,
right, right.
I never really like, even during that time, maybe it's like kind of like you know touching myself, but like I just never really thought about going to shows. Um, Maybe because maybe I was just like an awkward, reserved individual, and I never really thought about like, oh, I'm gonna try to go to these shows. Also, I think where I was going to school, and what was the prevalent culture during that time. I think like anything punk was very it was like, I guess, seeing anything that was like seldom. Like the high school I went to, there was probably like two scene kids, and you got like four metalheads, and
Yeah.
like everyone else was into hip hop and like pop music and or something else of that matter. So the culture was, even at a local level, like it was hard for me to get exposure to.
Yeah. And I mean, if you if you look at it from the outside, like,
Hmm.
and you've never been a part of that, like, you could, it's easy to think how you could feel some sort of isolationism or whatever, even from that. Like, if you're watching YouTube videos where 30 people are right in front of the band and they're all singing the songs, and you already feel like kind of an outcast, like that, that's not, that doesn't make you feel any differently necessarily. It's like they're all
Hmm.
friends, obviously. Like, I'm not
Yeah.
penetrating any friend groups as it is. How am I
Yeah.
supposed to, like, you know what I mean? So like, even though like this is a you know, our culture is like very welcoming, and like, you know, I found it to be that way anyway, and like, and is easy to access, like, for most people, like, um if you're just watching it online, it might not seem any different, you know,
Yeah.
is what I'm.
Might seem like there's like some kind of barrier
Yeah,
or
right, right. It's like,
yes.
oh well, you know, you got to be friends with those people to get on that, you know,
Yeah.
get in on this fun, you know, or
Yeah.
however you look at it. But yeah, it's I asked that, you know, specifically about the former shows because, like, um you know, I definitely did go to, like, it wasn't like I didn't see, like, uh you know, Under Oath or whatever, you know, any bands like that, or any Warp
Yeah.
Tours or anything. But I was like, from like seeing like Bad Religion play to 3,000 people, like
Yes.
at a, you know, an outdoor thing, to like the first time when I saw like a legit Basement Screamo show was like, oh shit. And like, my me and my friends were putting on like DIY shows like way before that, you know, and it was still like it was still like a very like cathartic and like eye-opening experience to um you know, see those contrasts. So I always find that interesting, like, and see like where, you know, how people's first experiences there
Yeah.
were. I don't, yeah, I Lear, they're, damn, they're
Oh,
definitely one of the, like, people love them. So I'm not going to use like the word underrated. I don't think they're underrated. It's just that not everybody now talks about them. So, you
yeah.
know, it's just like, but yeah, they're like, their LP, I mean, it's flawless. I don't know what else to
Yeah.
say.
Yeah.
We
I
played with some
agree.
of their other bands, but I never got to see them, unfortunately.
Oh, yeah. They, I think like during that time, I actually could like probably give them more credit. I could give more credit to them just for shaping, you know, just my perception of like DIY community and like just screamo and in general. Just because I grew up in San Jose and they were throwing house shows in San Jose. I think like one of the members, basically, you know, they lived at a house that threw house shows, and you know they would have a bunch of touring bands come through. You know, sometimes hardcore, emo, screamo, and punk in general. And you know, I live nearby, and I was like, I'm gonna go to every single show.
Yeah.
Every single show that this house will host, and it was like every band would always be talented, and everyone's super nice, and you know, it was definitely like a safe space to like, you know, just kind of like feel comfortable, and you know, just like I get to nerd out on music, and you know, maybe nerd out on like music gear, and you know, get to like meet new people. And it was, and obviously like Lear, I would say like maybe once every couple months they would play a show at their own place,
Mm-hmm.
and it would just be like, you know, yeah, like how you explain, like this, like where everyone's like singing along, and you know, kind of like having a good time, and you know, just have like this deep sense of like community and belonging.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like even in contrast to like these like huge shows like Warped Tour, yeah, there's definitely community, you know, and appreciating this music. But I guess just like everyone's enjoying like this very talented band in such an intimate setting, I guess just like has a different type of like value to me.
Yeah.
And it feels really nice, especially like being someone who I wasn't too like I felt like I was kind of outgoing, but I wasn't like in an active effort of trying to meet new people. I kind of like kept to myself or just kept to like friends that I've known for a while. And, it's adjusting to like, being in these spaces where everyone just seems very like accepting and wholesome. And, you know, it's kind of like everyone's with, welcoming with open arms. And I'm like, wow, this is awesome. Like it's a big sacrifice, I feel, for a lot of people. Like not sacrifice in like a negative way, but like, to have that much like compassion to just accept people, but also like, creating like a safe space for a lot of people. And Lear definitely like provided that environment, just like, with their music, but also like with all their friends and even
And
the band
literally
members.
their place that they were living. Yeah.
Exactly. Like
Yeah.
the guitarist's room was like, just down the hallway. And they just come out, they have like in the living room, and just a bunch of people. And it's just great. It was a really like eye-opening experience, like during that period.
Yeah, that's awesome. So you had, you had your hair growing and you were going to Lear shows. So you're halfway there. And it sounds like you were already playing guitar because you mentioned some like indie pop and stuff that you were sort of um but like what was kind of like the first band experience that you had where you were like, you know, playing like shows and trying to like record your own songs and stuff like that?
Yeah, um, yeah, it was. I think like after going to those Lear shows and making a bunch of friends, and just kind of finding like my place in this community. And I think eventually I was hanging out with a bunch of the friends. And they were some of them were already playing in bands, before. Maybe members of bands are in their other projects with other people, and this is like a whole mix. And I think I was asked to play like in a pop punk project. Maybe like I'm not sure how, I don't remember like how it sounded too much. I think like maybe a kind of like Joyce Manor-y type of pop punk. And
Okay.
I got exposure to like, oh yeah, let's play some loud music. and and I think there's like another emo project. It was like all these jams. Like we were okay. Let's all meet up and just like play around. Like, oh, we have some songs written or some riffs. Let's figure this out. I don't think any of these projects really like like went anywhere in terms of like releasing music or playing shows too much.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but I think, I guess to note, to have like to point out like a notable moment. Um, this might be like the shameless plug, but I Shannon from Awake But Still in Bed. We used to live together in the same, I guess like on the same property. We had like a house that had a bunch of friends living in there, like in multiple units. So we kind of like took over this property. And um, Shannon asked like, oh, I'm starting this new project. Do you want to join? And I was actually listening to like Shannon's older projects and seeing them play live, and I always thought it was like really amazing and stuff. And I was just like kind of like really surprised and very grateful to like just be asked to play. I played bass, and they asked me to play bass in Awake But Still in Bed. and and this was kind of like when the project was fairly new. And it was, and we were able to like record, like practice. Shannon wrote the songs, I played bass on them. And I think that, and then we started playing a lot of shows. And since they've been around the scene much longer, and we were getting all these like really cool shows. And I think that was like kind of like a significant moment for me, just like seeing, like along with playing these shows, I get to see all these really cool bands. Like we were kind of like on the emo end, and like it had some screamo elements, but then sometimes we would play with like just full on screamo bands. And I was just like, oh my god, this is amazing. Like I get to like play these shows, but also get to see all these like really really cool bands. And I think after that, um, you know, like as time went on, I, there's like other projects that I participated in, and it wasn't until maybe like 2017, 2018, um, I was hanging out with some friends, and they were in their another project. That project is ended up being Hall Walk, and that was one of my first screamo bands that I've played in. I played guitar, and that definitely was like the start of like history, I guess, for me,
Yeah.
because that was my first like full on like screamo band, and I think even during that time, like I never really played screamo, or even like strangely enough, like even at home, I was like not even playing screamo guitar. I was just kind of like playing whatever,
Mm-hmm.
like whatever genre. And I was like, oh, screamo just seems so out of reach for me, even though I love the genre so much and it looks everything's so cool. Um, but then now I have this opportunity to play in this band, and it was a great time.
Well, going back for a second, what was the band that you were playing in with Shannon? Because we played out there. Stephanie Chang put us on a show,
Oh,
and Shannon's band was going to play, but then the band, the whole band couldn't play, so Shannon did solo.
oh yeah,
And we
yeah.
played at this big warehouse. It was really cool. We played it.
Oh,
Oh, I
yeah.
can't remember what the other.
The salon. I believe it was called the salon.
Okay, it was
It was
like a
like the
huge warehouse, and there's like the big gate you got to come through, and
Yep,
yeah,
yep.
yeah.
Yeah, that was awesome. Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, that the project was called Awake but Still in Bed, and yeah,
Oh,
Stephanie Chang.
it was awake but still in bed at that time.
Mm,
Okay,
yeah, yeah. I
because
think Shannon would be able to play solo just if none of the members could play, and I thought that was really cool.
yeah, I'm wondering if this was like maybe a little bit even before that, the show that we played
Mm,
then, because
yeah.
there was another band that Shannon
Hmm.
was a part of, and I can't remember the name of it offhand, but it was like I I remember kind of feeling like I was getting the impression that like stuff like the band not being able to play like after committing kept happening, and that was part of like the the like going from that to awake but still in bed. But yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, maybe.
I would have to have another episode with Shannon to confirm that. But
Oh, Shannon was on the show too.
oh yeah, yeah, years ago at this point. But
Wow,
yeah, we definitely had a chat. But yeah,
that's awesome.
it was a really cool show, and Shannon was great. You know, Shannon, and
Mm,
we have. Well, no, Coma Regalia didn't play with Awake but Still in Bed, but Plague Walker did in Little
Plague
Rock,
Walker.
Arkansas. Yeah.
Okay.
So, and that was a
Whoa.
good, that was an awesome show too. Like,
Yeah.
um, but yeah, I was thinking, I was just trying to think like, would was that one of these things where we almost met but we didn't, you know? Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, I think maybe this was, uh, I I don't know. I had a couple trips out there. Um, I think that must have been about 2000. I think it was 2015. So I think that
Oh
predates
yeah.
that by a little bit. Yeah,
Yeah, definitely. I
yeah,
think I wasn't in around since like 2017 or
yeah.
so.
I was just
I
trying to
think
like, I was trying to get my dates together because, and then I'm like, oh yeah, 2013 was the first trip that Coma Regalia made out there,
oh
and that one was also awesome, but it was like a lot different, you know. Like
yeah.
um, and I'm trying to. Yeah, no, both times I was playing drums. We have not been back out there since I don't play drums in
Oh,
the band anymore. But
oh, I was about to say you should come out now
yeah,
if you're also playing, because I was like, oh, I wish I was there, because
yeah.
I love como, how do you pronounce it again?
Oh, Coma Regalia. Yeah,
Como Regalia. I love
yeah.
that. That was like actually when I was getting into screamo, was one of the first bands that I was listening to. I'm not sure how. I think I found it through Bandcamp or something, and I was like, wow, this is amazing.
Oh, thank
And this
you.
was like around the same time like I was getting into like Lear, and I was trying to do like some deep dive on Bandcamp, and y'all's band showed up, and that was definitely like another notable band that like kind of shaped like how I listen to screamo too.
Yeah, and if anything, like our stuff isn't that hard to play, so
Yeah.
like you could listen to that and be like, no, I could do this. No, um,
Yeah.
I don't know. It
I guess
wasn't.
that never really crossed my mind. It's like, how do I make this
How do I do
myself?
this?
It was just like, whoa, this is so cool. Like this is making me feel like some kind of warmth in my chest, or like it's like triggering some emotion that like I usually wouldn't get from anything else.
Yeah, with me it was just like um like I'd been, like I said, I'd been doing DIY shows for like
Mm,
since I was in high school. We were renting a storage unit to practice in, and
wow.
we would just wait until like later in the night, and no one, like none of the businesses who, there was like handyman type businesses and stuff
Mm,
that would operate out of these storage units, but they wouldn't be there past 5 or 6 o'clock. So we'd just
okay.
like pass some flyers out at school, and we
Yeah.
built a stage that hung on the lip of the entrance, so that like
Yo.
the drums would be just inside the storage unit, and then
Yeah.
the guitar amps would be like right on the entrance, and then you could be out standing on the stage and people in the parking lot was, and we would just like, we had this stage put into like 3 sections, and I don't even know how like we never got caught until we did, because we were literally just like take these sections and hide them like in the woods behind the,
Yeah.
because like
Oh man.
there wasn't enough room even in our storage unit for the sections, like after our gear was and stuff was
Yeah.
in there,
The
um
security guard that worked there was like nice.
yeah,
They're just
well,
like the one employee walking around. They're like, ooh,
right,
cool.
right. um and like, so like years and years later, and I end up living in
Mhm.
Indiana, I'm working with these people, and they're
Mhm.
like, yeah, come to a show at our house like when you get off work, because I'm like delivering pizzas at a pizza place, and
Sick.
all the people from that band Usurp Synapse work there,
Oh,
and they're like,
wow.
come like, and like literally to go home where I lived, I had to drive past that house. So like I'm driving past this house, and there's all these cars in this like gravel like parking lot
Wow.
that was there, and I'm like, yeah, that looks cool, like I'll go. And
Yeah.
I go in, and I'm just like getting my mind blown by these bands,
Yeah.
and
New map unlocked in
yeah,
the
and
brain.
it's like literally like, you know they were having like 6 shows a month at
Oh,
least, almost like two every, like one a week, but two every other week. It seemed like,
mm.
and so I'm just like there all the time. I'm just like, and I could play guitar. I'm just like looking at stuff. I'm trying to figure out. I'm like, and I'm sort of like, this is actually like easier than what I'm playing in like my like wannabe like lifetime band. You know what I mean? Like this is like low key like easier than what I'm already doing in this other band. Like,
Yeah.
but like this is just like, it's getting me in this way
Yeah.
that like, this other stuff isn't getting me necessarily.
Mhm.
And yeah, I was just like became obsessed with Crimson Curse, and then I was like, I got to start a band like that,
Oh, that's
and
awesome.
kind of did, and did a 7 inch, and I don't know, the rest is history. But
Yeah, it's
yeah,
just
it's
awesome to have that capability of just, especially being a musician. Like, I think for me too, it's like I started off as a fan. I was just like going to these shows and being like enamored by everything, and like being able to participate in it too is just like extremely special. And like I don't know, it just seems surreal at sometimes. Like I get to, along with seeing these bands, I get to participate as well, and that I think that's like some like what I hold dearly, like as a huge value to me. Like I'm very grateful for these communities that do this, and like just by driving by, or like walking and seeing it and being able to like just say, yeah, I'm gonna play with in a project with y'all, and that just sounds really wholesome.
yeah, yeah. it's I don't know, it's wild. Like I think it's like so kind of like not taken for granted, like anybody's like being shitty. Like that always sounds like
Hmm.
a shitty like connotation to say taken for granted, like,
Hmm.
but it's just like doesn't even like always click with you that like you're like literally in these people's houses and stuff, and
Yeah.
you're, you know, like maybe they're like got a thing like we, like once we had kids and we were doing shows in that same house that I was talking to where I went
Hmm.
all those shows, like we did lots of shows there afterwards. I basically subleased it and then took over the lease, but like,
Hmm.
you know, we had a thing where it's like we had kids, and so we're like, you know, bands are allowed upstairs. It's just like, but like
Hmm.
we never even followed that rule because like unless there was like really a lot of people there, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like then we'd be like, yeah, because you know, I don't know, like it's like one time like Phoenix Bodies played there and we were like,
Hmm.
hey, I understand that sometimes y'all take off like all your clothes and stuff. So like I'm not here to tell you like whether or not you can or should do that, but I am asking as someone whose child routinely
Yeah.
comes down here, are you
Hmm.
going to do that so that I
Yeah.
know that I should not come
Hmm.
down here like you know, with
Yes.
my child. And
Yes. Yes.
so there's like situations where you know, once you have a kid, when you're like, I need to be more cognizant of certain
Yeah.
things than
Yeah.
when I was, you know, when I was first coming through here at 22 years old, you know, and watching
Yeah.
these shows and stuff.
No, definitely. Especially like punk can definitely, they have that notoriety of just being like a rowdy crowd sometimes, depending on like on the genre.
Yeah,
And yeah,
yeah,
that's good to be cognizant about too, for
yeah.
sure.
But really when you know when it comes down to it, like when you're really just like, yeah, like I went on tour and I sleep in these people's house and I'm like practically a stranger to a lot of these people,
Yeah.
and like, you know, of course like there are situations where this doesn't work out well for all
Mm.
parties involved and that's unfortunate, but like on the whole, you're like, this is such a remarkable like amount of trust and faith
Yeah.
that we put in each other, and you know, and I think it's usually it's rewarding for everyone, you know, so I don't
No,
know.
definitely.
Yeah,
And that also just, shows the value of like, yeah, these communities and how accepting they are. And I I I feel like maybe like now's the opportunity to talk about it. I generally don't express like vocally, at least in front of like people, that like how grateful I am and stuff for these communities. I think like even for me when I play live shows, I'm generally like, well, I think one-on-one conversation I function better, but like I think like in front of a crowd, not really much stage fright for playing the music, but maybe just talking into the microphone.
yeah,
Like I've always wanted to like, I've done it a few times where like I could go on the microphone and like should tell my appreciation for like the scene, and you know everyone just like continuously supporting it, and how it's like shaped me as a person and my values, especially, and just like being able to just express that gratitude. And I guess maybe like talking to you and being able to like have this episode recorded, I could like actually express that gratitude. And yeah, because there are times I'm like, oh, I get to crash at your place. So I get to like, like sleep on your bedroom floor. Like this is where you live. Like
yeah,
I'm only here for like a night, or I get to sleep like on your couch. Like I see all your things. I see your Xbox and TV, and it's just like,
yeah,
wow, this is like someone's life that they're just like allowing me to enter, like for a moment, and it's very endearing. Um, and I think that that value has been carried on for so many generations now. I feel like with any like touring band or punk bands like on the road and playing DIY stuff, I'm like, wow, this is sick.
yeah. And it's wild too because like, you know, I've said it a million times on here, but you're literally like just playing a cool show and you're just like, hey, we kind of don't have any place to crash, and somebody you've never met is like, yeah, you can crash on my bedroom floor, and they're asleep like 4 feet away from you. You never met them. You wake up the next morning, you like get something to eat, you maybe hug goodbye and say, and then the next thing you know, 12 years later, you're still pals with them.
Yeah,
Like that's
yeah,
fucking wild. And
that's
and
so
it's
sick.
so yeah, it's so amazingly unbelievable like in certain like contexts, This is the only
Yes,
context that I can imagine that, you know.
yeah,
Um
definitely.
yeah.
It's funny that you mentioned that because like I think another way that I guess since it's been a while now, and I we're Mao is based out in Oakland, and we actually all of us besides one member, we all live together. So Leon the drummer and Joseph the other guitarist, we all have an apartment together here in Oakland, and we've been actually like um, basically offering up our place anytime any bands touring through the Bay Area. We have the space now to offer up, um, a place for bands to stay the night,
Mhm.
and we try to make it as comfortable as possible. So like we have like inflatable beds, extra blankets and pillows. We have like the bathroom in the that's next to the kitchen. That's like that everyone's allowed to use, and we even have like we have like a whole giant pack of toothbrushes and like toiletries for touring bands. So like I guess to like carry on that value, yeah, we've been trying to provide like a very comfortable space for touring bands. So even if you're ever coming to the Bay Area, you're more than welcome to like stay at our place and hang out.
Yeah, that I would love to get back out there. It almost happened. Uh we did get asked to play California Kicks Fest, but like
Oh,
it was just a super like like a year and some change ago, like
mhm.
one of my children like went through a uh, a liver transplant, and
Oh,
so it's just like yeah, the last couple of years have just been like um, just one thing after another, and I hope one day they I hope that fest keeps going, and one day they do ask us again, because I like that's the thing is I won't say yes unless I'll absolutely be there, and so like
yes,
that's
yeah,
always the thing is like I think it was like we got asked, and I was like, well, I'm trying to figure out like what that time in my life, like, because they
yeah,
need to book in advance, and like, what is that even
mhm,
gonna look like? Our kid just had this surgery, and
yeah,
and so, but yeah, I don't know. I got, I'm not in a position anymore where I can really like go and tour like I used to tour like 20 days at a time or whatever. But
yeah,
I've got a couple like the bucket list, like these are the things that I
yeah,
need to do before I'm saying like that's no longer something I'm gonna do, like
yeah, exactly. Especially like I'm not sure about like I don't know, compared to the past, maybe I was like not unaware, but like I'm seeing all these like festivals. Like you
mm-hmm.
get these like 10 to 20 band festivals all shoved in like a weekend or a day. And even for Cali Kicks, like having all these bands come out, there was like the pre-shows, post-shows, and like the 2 days of bands. I think I went to 6 screamo shows that week. I counted. Um, and yeah, just like even like yeah, if you're gonna plan a tour, it's like oh maybe I'll just play off this one festival or go to play this one festival and just get like all the scream I need for like the entire year or like the entire like season, you know.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it really could, especially with that fest. Like that one looked bonkers. Like, I mean, I don't know. They kind of all do now. Like, it's like there's. It seems like every time I turn around, there's a new one that looks just as cool, as the other ones,
Mhm.
and I never heard of that one. But
Yeah.
but yeah, you mentioned Hawak earlier, and like I know that like you're saying that that was more or less your first band, and I know that like y'all recorded that album and then went through like absolute nightmare after nightmare, like getting the vinyl pressed. So like, did
Oh, you
that?
know about that?
Yeah, yeah. Unfortunately, I do. Did that
Wow.
have an impact on how you like approached like the Mao antithesis release? Like, were you like, look, I'm not doing that again right away. Like we're just was that a factor or
Um, I, I, I never really thought about it, but I'm assuming possibly like along the lines, if we face any difficulties, there could have been a trauma response to like what
yeah.
happened with Hot Walk. But I feel like with the thing with Hot Walk, it was just like very unlucky on a lot of things. Like, like the pressing plant that we decided to go with, the quality of the press, they didn't even have the color we want. And then when they pressed it, there was like a bunch of like residue on the vinyl, like it kind of like they didn't cut it properly, and
Huh.
also like a bunch of the records like would skip,
Yeah.
like one out of every like three records would have like skips in them, and we were listening to them, like putting every single record, putting the record player, listening for like quality control. And we ended up having to go to another pressing plant, which delayed a bunch of things.
Yeah, I'll call that
Yeah.
plant out by name because like I know who it was. It was Erica,
Oh,
and like fuck that plant forever. They messed up one
dang.
of our records, and they did the same. Like I was like, they're skipping,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
they're like, can you listen to them and make sure they all do? And I was
yeah.
like, you're
That's
not
exactly what they
supposed
asked us to.
to like. I'm supposed to listen to 500 of these. Like
Yeah.
this is like only like ours was a 5 inch, so not even a 12
Oh,
inch. Like luckily it was not a 12 inch, but I'm like, this is like three 3 minutes of music aside, like six, like you're asking me to listen to like what is that, 3,000 minutes of music, like
yeah,
of the same music, like that
yeah.
I've already, like I mixed and recorded this myself, like
I'm
I've
gonna get
already,
desensitized myself.
yeah,
That's
I'm
like
just
probably like a
like
spiritual journey of yourself that's just forced upon you. Like
you know,
look at yourself in the mirror for like 5 hours straight,
and I'm
or
like,
something.
and like by the time you get to the end of it, like I had done it, and I'm like, okay, to be fair, only 93 of these are fucked up. And
Only 93.
yeah, one fit, yeah, like 20% of the press, right? And
Yeah,
so I'm like, so can I get a different, can I get this, like, can I get them replaced? And they're
yeah,
like, we're looking into it. And like, for 100 records, like, they looked into this for literally years. I went back and forth about these
years.
100 records. Yeah, years. They would send me videos and be like, because they were like, you don't need to send us all of them, send us 5 of them. And so I sent them 5 of them, and they're like, they would
It
send me
worked.
videos and they'd be like, yeah, they are warped, but they sound fine. And the video would not have sound on it. I'm not shitting you. And I
What?
was like, this video doesn't have sound. And then that would be like 2 weeks where they would not get back to me. And they were like, huh, it should.
Yeah.
Like literally the worst. Like it was just, it was,
I, I feel like they're just gaslighting you at that
yeah,
point.
yeah, yeah. It was like that, it was like the hot dog man sketch from, I Think You Should Leave. It was like,
Oh
we're going to
yeah,
find out who did this,
yeah, I did this. Yeah.
Yeah, it was so bad. And eventually I, I kept it up for a while, even though like at some point I knew I was never getting those records replaced.
Yep.
I kept it up for a while just to see if I could be annoying. And like,
Yeah.
I should have just went there. I should have been mean, or like, I should have been like, I should have did something weird that
Yeah.
was like real, like just, I don't know. I should have,
Yeah, some kind of troll, like.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I should have really lent into it in a way, that
Yeah,
was
yeah,
at least fun for me, right? But
yeah,
I never did. I just kept like, so any word on that, and then I'd see how long it took, and
yeah.
then yeah,
I I
yeah.
I shared the same experience. I think what happened with us, we were back and forth with them, and they actually ended up ghosting us. So they wouldn't respond for like, I don't know, like a couple of weeks or a month or so
Yeah.
through email, and then all of a sudden, like we sent them a long one, like, hey, can we do this one last thing for us or something like that? And I think we ended up just getting ghosted. Like they just stopped responding to us after a couple emails, and we were like, all right, I'm trying my best not to be petty or mad about this. We're just gonna go through someone else.
Yeah. Yeah, it's I mean, um like luckily I never had anyone like get back to me and be like this record is messed up, except one person did, but I like knew that person. So
Oh
like
no.
cuz it wasn't like right away that I had noticed it, you know what I mean? So
Mm-hmm.
like I think we got lucky, and we only found out that like one person, it was kind of a friend of mine at the time, like actually got one of the ones that didn't sound right,
Yeah.
and like it was just one of those things where it's like, the song is going on at regular speed, and then for a second it's just like down pitched,
That
like but
happened to
just
us
for
too.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
uh,
Like it was like printed like the printing press like itself like probably like was warped or something,
yeah,
like
yeah.
whatever the mold they had. Yeah, yeah. We had the exact same issue.
Uh, but I don't know that person's name. It was Ken. Ken. It was something. I'm thinking like it was like Brisbane, but I know that's like a place in Australia. So like, I think that's just. But it was something something, and but yeah,
Yeah.
I'm still not. I'm still not like nah, Ken. We're not good. You know,
No, yeah.
send
And
me the
trying to like
100 records.
hold back like my frustration and anger and try to like, let's keep these values of just being very, very like patient and stuff. It's like
Yeah,
no
I had.
big no shout outs to Erica Press.
I had this box of the ones that were messed up. I had them like just in like a little box, like all together, and the box was like sealed and stuff. Like that thing came out like 10 years ago or whatever, and I had that box like until we moved into our new house like 2.5 years ago or whatever. Like
Yeah.
and I was like moving an entire
It's
house, like including children's, items and stuff. And I
yeah.
was like, I want to take this box just like out of petty spite or whatever. I want to have this box for the rest of my life. And I was like, that is so ridiculous. Like, Edie, get over yourself, throw it in the trash.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. I think we ended up yeah, I don't remember what we did. We had the same thing. We had a box of these records too that also were like we held on to them. Well, we didn't know what to do with them. I think we ended up giving it to Zagama Beach, and they were selling it like at a discount or something like that. I forgot what we did. We like just basically gave away like, oh, these records are not good. But it's almost like a monument of like no, I wouldn't say a monument of failure because it wasn't like our fault or
Yeah,
anything.
no.
But it was like some kind of like shame box. Like, oh man, like I don't want to. I feel bad giving this to people. Like I don't want to give something that's like not to our standards, and even though the standard is like not even that high. It's just like I just need a working record.
Yeah, yeah. One that's where the songs sound like they're supposed to sound. Yeah.
Exactly.
It's funny, like, that reminded me, like, it's not even close to the same thing, but there's this one time when I got test pressings for a record,
Mhm.
and they were the wrong test pressings, and
What's wrong? What do you
yeah,
like?
they were the wrong thing. I don't know how to explain it, but it's like I put these test pressings on, and it sounds like this is like it sounds like somebody's gonna put this on at a circus. Like it's that kind of music. It's like and somebody's gonna get on and be like, and we have the daredevils of the trapeze, the flying
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
MacArthurs, like it
Yeah.
sounds like that kind of music. And I was like, called the plant, and this wasn't Erica. This was somebody else, but
Yeah,
still fuck Erica. But and I called it. I'm like, what's up with that? And they were like, can you read me the matrix numbers on them that are scratched in the
yeah,
middle or
yeah.
whatever? And I'm like, yeah, it's this. And they were like, oh, that's the problem, because like yours is the next number over or whatever. You just got sent the wrong ones. We'll send you the right ones ASAP.
They're not just
And
mocking.
yeah, yeah, and I'm like, okay, whew. So we got the right ones and stuff, and then just like for fun, when I was doing like there was a friend of mine who like their family was about to be evicted,
Oh,
from like a just like not even like their fault, just like this shitty landlord was about to evict them with like 2 weeks notice, and so they had to come up with like new security deposits, all this stuff.
mm-hmm.
So I was doing this thing, and I was like, hey, I've got these test pressings for this release. It's totally not the thing, but there's only 10 of these in existence. Like, this could be a cool thing for people to have, and
Yeah, like a little like bonus or like what is it?
yeah, just like
Easter egg,
yeah, just
Easter
like
egg
wow, this is
record.
weird. That's just like a funny story, and it would the money would help folks out. So, um,
Yeah.
but yeah, nobody did buy them, but which is like that saddens me, not just because I couldn't send my friend an extra $20, but also because like what an interesting story, just like
Yeah.
yeah, like I'd have put on this sounds like carnival barker music, but there was no like
Carnival Barker
yeah,
music.
there was no voice or anything. It was just that kind of music on this 12-inch, and I was
Oh,
like,
I was expecting for like that, but with like screamo, like just some screaming vocals, and it's just like,
oh,
whoa, this
somebody
is like a
could,
whole new thing.
yeah, somebody could do that. Somebody could buy one of those tests from me, and then they could make a screamo record out of it. And
Yeah,
but
yeah.
yeah, yeah, it's I don't know. That's a really weird. And I was just like so dumbfounded by it. I was just like, who presses this kind of music onto vinyl? Like, what is this for? You know?
Just
But
like a dude with a wooden pipe in his library putting on a record,
yeah,
and this
I,
is this.
I have no idea. I'd never found like I don't. I should have been nosier about it. I should have been like, "What's this project actually called?" I should have,
Yeah,
and then we do a split record with them.
yeah, exactly. You do a split, and you go on tour, and you find out that they're like also into screamo, but this is like their passion project on the side.
Yeah, they're like real. They're like really into like you know communist theory and all this stuff, and they're just like
Oh, perfect.
you're like where do these people come from, like
Yeah.
um but yeah, it's pressing plans, but so um when Hawak uh broke up, like was that like was forming Mao like an immediate thing for you? Like how did the band come together after you were like Hawak was not a thing any longer?
Oh,
Like
yeah.
was it just like, hey, I already know these people and like let's go for it, or did you sort of have to sort of start over?
Oh, that's a really good question. I guess it's like, yeah. So, um, yeah, there was like some personal things that happened within Hawk, and caused us like not to be able to play with each other anymore. I think even during that time, it was actually during COVID. We were all like kind of locked in the rooms, and I think during that time, I won't dwell into it too much, but I was going to a very what's the word, like tumultuous time, a very difficult time in my life. Outside of even just music, and the band is going through some personal things that were just taking up a lot of my time, and it was very saddening, and it was just a very stressful time. And I think like I would use screamo as almost like an outlet for me, just to kind of express myself, or it's almost like a kind of like a confession of my emotions. Mao definitely was a product of that, just all that, things going on in my life, along with the Hawk stopping to play with each other. Um, what happened? Joseph, he actually was a later member in Hawk. He played bass. He played bass with us for a year or so, um, and I've actually known Joseph. We actually know each other since elementary school.
Oh wow.
And we actually we played music together in high school. We played like at our high school talent show, like as like a little indie pop project, and we've actually been writing music together for many years. And it wasn't until I asked him to play in Hawk, then we kind of like reacquainted and started writing music together again. So I think after that, Joseph and I, we kept in touch, and we were like, I was like, I need to keep playing screamo. This is like the only thing that like gives me fulfillment. And Joseph was very supportive and very obviously very down to do so. And we and I think Mao was kind of like a representation of like that period of my life where it was kind of rough and I needed to express myself somehow, and we're like, all right, let's do it. Let's meet up, just you and me. We'll both play guitar. Let's just meet up and write some riffs, and I'm not sure if maybe you hear it, or there are some Hawk influences. Like these are the Hawk riffs that that maybe didn't fit in Hawk, but I'm gonna try to do it now for this project. So it's like a lot of like old riffs and obviously new riffs. And no, yeah, Mao is basically kind of like a result from Hawk kind of ending there. And it was almost I always say like this is kind of like carrying on the torch of that, the spirit of that band.
Mm-hmm.
Just because we were able to continue doing screamo with we had the same styles that we played in Hawk, or same influences. We're gonna put this in now, and yeah, and the rest is kind of history. We Joseph and I we were writing for about a year together, just us two, not really knowing like how things will turn out, and we end up by sheer chance just finding other members. Leon, I met randomly just through jamming through mutual friends, and I kind of like leaned over to Leon. He was playing drums. I was like, "Hey, do you want to play my screamo project?" And Leon was just like, I think his reaction was like, he started laughing. He's like, I can't escape screamo, because apparently Leon was like from Chicago, and like, I think like used to playing screamo bands, and actually like toured before in his screamo project, so he knew like members of Ostraka and like the Virginia scene,
Uh,
and new screamo bands from Chicago. And then he just moved to the West Coast in Oakland, and he's just like, oh haha, I guess I can't escape screamo. So he said yes, I'll play with y'all, and ended up being like a really really awesome drummer. And just being able to do this, it was almost like a blessing, kind of like pieces just falling right into place. I'm able to continue playing music and playing the genre that I like. So it was really cool.
yeah, and I mean, to be fair, if you're trying to escape screamo, don't go to California. That's like for future reference. Uh,
The scene is so big now.
yeah,
It's
it
so
is.
big.
It's huge, and like it seems like every time I turn around, I'm like, there's another fucking sick band out there, like, with open arms, rather.
With open
Yeah,
arms. Yep.
yeah. Like they just
Yeah,
dropped a
they're
thing
awesome.
and they're sick,
Mm-hmm.
and yeah. I don't know why. I hope when I was chatting with them, I didn't say their name wrong. But yeah, yeah. Don't go to California. Um,
Yeah, I was about
but
to say, shout out Violet
yeah,
from With
yeah,
Open Arms.
yeah.
They actually they book a lot of shows in the Bay Area, and and they're very like they network a lot, and actually are a very, very big driving force of like screamo DIY in the Bay Area. So shout out to them. They're awesome.
I've noticed that. It's yeah, it's awesome. I just reviewed their demo for my zine, and so they're one of their tracks is on the compilation that comes with the zine and stuff. Like,
Sick.
yeah, really sick. But yeah, it's it's wild. Like, you know, I think people know like sort of the whole like um, lineage of the band. Like so Mao doesn't just come out and like it comes out and blows people away, but it doesn't surprise people because people know like that you're where you came from and stuff. But like if you just listen to those four songs like by themselves, like on the surface, and you're like they're so technically accomplished and like so like you can tell. I don't know if you personally are like a tinkerer kind of writer, but that's what it sounds like. It sounds like this wasn't this wasn't just like I have a riff, now I have a riff, now I have another riff. It sounds like there was a lot of, well, I've got four riffs, but how can I make four riffs sound like 17,
Yeah.
or
You
like,
you're actually on the dot. You're actually very on the dot with that.
yeah.
I have this little joking philosophy I call it a bag of riffs.
Uh-huh.
And it's just like, oh, I'm just gonna make a screamo riff and I'm just gonna keep it in my pocket. And then when we go into the space, we're gonna be like, how are we gonna like put all this together? How's it gonna feel? How are we gonna like make it um like smooth or like transition smoothly or like make it make sense.
Mhm.
And no, that's exactly how it is. And I think a lot of the writing process is just us in the room playing these riffs over and over again, and we talk to each other like, what is next, what feels right.
Yeah.
And it's I have this other thing where it's like, if I'm able to play this, if I'm able to remember playing this and am willing to play it like 100 times over, then it must be worth it, or this must fit. And for every part of the song, I think I think what happens is every first 10 seconds of the song was the initial riff that started the song, and then we just wrote the rest of the song like together afterwards. Like the first 5 to 10 seconds of every song was just like one of us was in our room just playing guitar, brought it to the space, and like, okay, let's expand on this, and let's just keep expanding until we think we're done with it.
That's awesome. Um yeah, it's yeah, I was going to ask like when you're talking about like where does this go from here, etc. Like are you trying to find the most organic route, or do you feel like sometimes you have to push against that?
Mm, that's a really good question. I'm not too sure. I feel like during the writing process, it felt very natural,
Mhm.
just because I think with everyone's enthusiasm and like we're kind of like, this is a new project. We don't really have this expectation. I think for me, I'm not really like picky about like doing things. I just, if it feels good to play, it feels good to write. We take input from everyone. You know, maybe like one of the members, like Leon or something, will like, hey, what if we did this for this part? And then all of us are like, oh, that sounds awesome. Let's do it. And sometimes, playing it over and over again, we're like, oh, maybe like we should carry on the energy and change it up or do something like that. But I never really felt like there was any like kind of like I don't know what the word is, but like conflict or kind of like we were stumped. We didn't know what to do
Mhm.
with some songs. It just felt really natural, and I guess I'm not sure if it's like compatibility with all the band members just being down with whatever, and I guess just everyone just really knowing what they're doing and really knowing what we want to sound like without even having to discuss it or even like have some kind of like conflict in saying like, oh, I want to do it this way or I want to do it this way. It's like whatever felt good and natural, it was what we went with. I'm not sure if that answers that
No,
question.
totally.
Yeah.
I just personally, like,
Mhm.
I tend to write very like train of thought, and so
Yeah.
it's interesting to me to find out, like, because I feel like what I need to do sometimes is I
Hmm.
need to get this whole string of ideas out, right? And I need to put them down. And then I need to listen to this later almost as if I was like an outsider and
Yes. Yeah.
go, like, where is this too obvious? Where do I need to insert a little conflict? Like
Hmm.
you use the word conflict, and I think you meant like between ideas, like, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
But I'm just like, look, to I'm looking at this long string of a bunch of riffs or whatever that will make up several songs or whatever, and I'm like,
Mhm.
this is too this is too much like just me in my bag, like doing my
Yeah.
thing,
Yeah.
right? So I have
Hmm.
to interject. I have to say,
Yeah.
no, you stop that right now, do something, do
Yeah.
something weird or something,
Yeah. Yeah.
and that's for better or worse probably, but it depends
Hmm.
on which one depends on which of the other bandmates that you ask, and it
Yeah.
depends on whether they had like more than a couple weeks to learn the songs or not. um,
Exactly. Yeah.
but
No, I feel that like I actually that was some actually now that you mention it, that's actually something that I tried to be more cognizant of, is kind of being like, if you have like the other bandmates have an idea, even if it's something that like, oh, I didn't envision it this way, or maybe like I would actually make an active effort to accommodate and be like, or even make compromises to be like, oh yeah, let's make this fit somehow.
yeah,
But like, I'm gonna work with it. So what I play, will still be like, oh yeah, this is kind of, we wrote this together, but I'm writing my own part, and we're gonna make this work somehow.
yeah,
And I think that collaborative energy is just like, okay, so in the end, the product is still going to be all of us, even though like there was some kind of like, oh, this is how I pictured it, or this is how I wanted it to turn out. But I think the end product, what I guess me trying to be optimistic, I always talk to this with the other bandmates, like, don't worry, it'll turn out good.
yeah,
It'll end up good regardless. Like I'm not gonna like let my ego just kind of like overlook how cool it will turn out in the end, anyways.
yeah. I always try
So
to look at it like this ain't gonna be the last thing that I do.
yeah, yeah, no,
So like,
definitely,
so we don't
definitely.
use my idea this time. That's fine. Like,
Hmm.
let's use yours. That's fine because like I'm this ain't. Eventually, it will be the last thing that all of us do. Eventually that thing, whatever, it'll be the last one.
Yeah.
We probably won't know it at the time, but like
Hmm.
the thing is, it's like that's the only way I can look at it. Is just like this ain't gonna be the last thing. So like let's.
Hmm.
I'm almost more like in most cases, like Coma Regalia is more or less like uh, it's a it's a it's a straight line. It's like a brainchild kind of
Hmm.
situation, but still we write songs in all kinds of different ways. Like we write songs where the drums are first, and it was just like an idea, like and I'm like, okay, I can go with
Hmm.
this. So
Yeah.
we write songs all kinds of ways, but it's like it might not seem that way because I'm more or less like steering the ship, right? But like
Yeah.
other stuff, I'm like, let's make you happy because like there's I got nothing but this is nothing but opportunity.
Yeah.
Let's do something cool. But
Yeah.
yeah. So the EP only came out in November, but we got to this part of the show now where I'm kind of wrapping it up, right? So I have to
Hmm.
ask, and I feel
Yeah.
bad sometimes because it's like we spent 6 months making this EP and it just came
Hmm.
out. But I'm gonna ask, like, what's in store for the band, like over the coming year and stuff. Like, what are you,
Oh,
are you working on new songs currently? Like, just like got some shows coming up, that kind of stuff, or
yeah. I think I guess just to like not preface this, but I guess the decision was, it seemed very natural just to continue doing what we're doing, like keeping the pace of how Mao started, like keeping that pacing and energy with the ongoing years. Just being able to meet up and write music, um, and stuff. So I for the future, we're it's going to be more shows, just continue more shows, and we actually are writing new music. Um, I guess this is like also me just trying to do a shout out to the community and to the everyone that supported us. Like we were playing shows for a whole year before we even released music. And I've never that's the first time in my life that I've never even that path taken was like we're gonna play shows before music's released, and people are already down to book us without even like listening to us ahead of time, and that is utterly insane in my book. I've never experienced like so much support for something that like people just haven't heard yet, but they're still down with it. We were able to play like some festivals and like a whole year's worth of shows, and releasing the EP just like a few months ago, and so I think like I'm very grateful for that, which we will continue doing. But I think like the main focus right now is songwriting. So I think we have actually another four songs in the mix, like of that are being written, and it's carrying a lot of like. I think like right now we wrote these initial songs in the EP like, oh, let's see what we could do together. Now that we've been playing together for so long, it's like, all right, now let's get more focused and start writing things with more intention, with a certain style that I think we all enjoy. I guess the song "Restrain," it's the last song on our EP. That's the song I believe that was written by all of us together. As opposed to other songs where it was kind of like one of our ideas and we were like, oh, let's build off of that. Restrain was a song that we kind of sat in the room together and only worked on it in the room together. We never really did anything outside of it, and it felt so natural, and I feel like that song has like so many movements and energies, and it could seem even random at some parts, but I think we're going towards that sound. It does sound a little bit. Sounds more different than the rest of the songs, in my opinion. But yeah, I think we're leaning towards new songs, and we're playing some cool shows next year. I guess I'll make a shout out with, I don't know if you've been the band Weather Day.
Okay.
We're playing with Weather Day, and they're just like a really great project. I'm not sure how to describe their music, but definitely stems from like emo. And surprisingly, we are playing with Awake But Still in Bed on that show.
Awesome.
And I'm not sure if Shannon is aware of Mao. So unless they listen to this episode, I'm gonna go surprise them at the show. Like, hey,
That's awesome.
like, what's up? Like,
Say
we're
hey
here.
for me.
Yeah, we'll do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Shannon. Like I've known Shannon for a really long time, but also our split with Snag that we released not last year, but the year before.
Yeah.
Shannon did vocals on a Snag track that I also did vocals on. So that was cool. It was like it was like collaborative in that way, but it was like collaborative from like separate rooms in separate states and stuff.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
You were in Snag too?
Oh no. We did a split with Snag, and so we did this thing where I was like, y'all got to sing on one of our songs, and we got to sing on one of yours. And so they were like, okay, you're gonna sing on one of our songs, but also Shannon's gonna sing on the song as well.
Sick.
So yeah.
Honestly, I would love more of that.
Yeah,
Like screamo band crossovers.
We have a thing coming out on Valentine's Day, so and that is I don't want to spoil it too much, but it's a real marriage of ideas, let's just say.
That's awesome. That's great.
Yeah, it's gonna be fun. Yeah, that sounds awesome. And Restrain is the song that you asked me to use on the comp as well.
Mm-hmm.
So that is definitely a favorite of mine for plenty of reasons. But
Oh, thank
I'm
you.
excited to see where y'all are, because you hit it on the head. Like there's a lot of twists and
Oh,
turns there, and so like I'm like, wait, like so we're getting 4 whole songs that are like, just sort of spinning you around in your chair like that. Like that's gonna be awesome. But yeah, I hope people come out to y'all's show. Say hi to Shannon from me. Um,
yes, we'll do.
is there anything else that you wanted to say before we take off, or did we kind of get through
Uh,
most of it?
no, yeah. This is. I don't think I have any much more to say. It's just really, it was really, really fun talking to you, and I've never like had like a conversation like this. Just talking about music and just like the history of just like ourselves individuals just being in the scene. I kind of only have these conversations in passing at shows, and so I guess like thank you again for providing me this space to express myself. I've actually never done it before, so it's really cool.
And that was my conversation with Ben from Mao. Thank you so much, Ben, for taking the time to chat with me. Thanks to all of y'all for listening as well. In case you haven't noticed, all the new episodes are going to YouTube now instead of the Middleman Records Bandcamp, as I really need to clean that up. Old episodes are making the switch over as well, so subscribe there or whatever you want to do if you want to keep up with that. Until next time, take care and do good things.